So since this captain's log is so long and goes over so much stuff, I talked quite a bit. So I'm going to need to cut me going over all of the stuff in this captain's log into two separate videos. So make sure you keep an eye out for part 2 after part 1. It was pretty long and there's a ton of specific information in this captain's log to go over. Hey, what's up everybody, this is Rick501, and today I want to go over the newest Captain's Log, which is Captain's Log 22, which goes over all the stuff they went over in the live stream and the March update. So it's the March milestone and official server wipe. This Captain's Log will go into some of the finer details of what we shared during our live stream earlier today. If you haven't had a chance to go watch it, you can go watch the VOD at the Sail the Atlas Twitch channel. In previous logs we said that we would be visiting some major design aspects of the game which make it more accessible for smaller groups and solo players, along with reducing the steep climb necessary to experience some of the later game content. There's a lot we want to do over the coming months, and this update will be the first of many to help resolve these problems. However, before we get into that, we'd like to talk about something pretty important. The official network wipe. Please note that this wipe will not be forced on unofficial servers. However, the old claim flags will disappear and you'll have to replace them or allow them to naturally populate. With the release of the first milestone, we will be wiping all of our official networks. This is not a decision we've taken lightly. However, we believe based on a number of reasons that this will be the best move for the game moving forward. First of all, the changes we are planning for this update are huge. We are completely redesigning the world layout, introducing new island types and biomes, and new playable areas beneath and upon the ocean, along with completely revamping the claim system. Due to the impact of these changes, we believe a wipe is the best course of action so that you can experience the update in a fresh environment without being influenced by any of our legacy or depreciated code. The wipe will allow us to see whether the changes we're making are heading in the right direction or whether we need to sit back as a team and further adjust our design for the game. We believe that these systems, which we are going to discuss in more detail, are some of the most important core aspects of Atlas. Using your feedback, insight, and creativity, we want to build on the foundation of the game throughout early access, and willing to make changes necessary, no matter how large, to get them to work, whether that means more content, complete redesigns, or wiping the network when big changes have come in. Secondly, since Atlas launched as an early access title, there have been a number of bugs, exploits, and patches made in the game that have had a significant impact on the state of the persistent world. A number of players have benefited or have suffered grievances due to these various since fix issues, whether they were taking advantage of the crafting exploits, alpha babies, duping, or had their boats sunk by Gatling ships of the damned. As such, being a game that is focused on players building an empire, claiming and ruling over what's theirs, and being the hero or villain that they were meant to be, we believe that the wipe is necessary to put everyone back on an even playing field. Furthermore, we've been a little soft in some cases when it comes to players taking advantage of these these game exploits. After the first wipe has taken place in March, that will no longer be the case. We'll start prioritizing fixing issues / bugs / exploits. So we encourage you to work with us when you've discovered something that could be exploitable. That is our mandate, fixing and resolving game issues. However, we'll be taking a more firm stance against serious cases where a company is using an exploit without coming forward, which could result in company-wide and or alliance-wide punishments. Finally, at the end of March, when this update drops, we'll be compensating those of you who have taken part in Atlas's first iteration. Will be rewarding all players who have ever logged into official Atlas prior to the wipe with a special cosmetic item that you'll be able to keep post-wipe. Please keep an eye on our announcements for when this deadline is, so you can make sure to get the cosmetic. So that's a ton of information. So if you've logged in at any point before the massive March update, you'll get this hat that looks pretty cool, and it'll be tied to your account. So this will be an item that you will always get when you respawn, and there is an option to turn off survivor items, which are all the skins and stuff you get when you respawn, same as they had in Ark. There's tons of stuff on this. Being harder on people using glitches and exploits and stuff is very good. There's tons of other stuff but this is basically just their explanation of why they're wiping. I think it's pretty much needed at this point with how many exploits and glitches and stuff there were, with how big of changes there are. I think it's pretty much just needed. I don't think there's really a way around having to wipe the official networks. This also does give a chance for a lot of new people to come back, because there's definitely going to be a bunch of companies and stuff, especially with there's more company changes that are going to help against these massive companies. But with how many like there's going to be companies, you know, a bunch of players leaving companies to join new companies. There's going to be a ton of new players coming back since it's brand new. People can get islands they, you know, wanted it, can never take from somebody. With how the claim system is, people will be able to more easily get islands, more easily start and have places to build, to, you know, build up with other players in the game. People understand the game better, so stuff's going to get built up much quicker. And since defenses, especially with some of these changes, are like ratings going to be much harder and only in a certain window, specifically a 9-hour window, people will be able to build up quickly, get their defense up quickly, and then be able to do end game stuff that they weren't able to before, like defeating the Kraken and that type of stuff. Then we have one of the graphics we already went over. With this patch, the team have a number of primary and secondary objectives. With our primary and biggest change, we hope to address the following: players not being able to find land to build a base on both PvP and PvE. This was a massive issue. Offline rating, biggest issue this game and ARK ever had. Incentivizing large companies to work with smaller and solo groups, and players not being able to connect/spawn on a server. We recognize that these aren't the only aspects of Atlas which need to improve. There are problems with the new player experience, how punishing it is to recover after you've been defeated, server performance during large epic battles, visibility or viability of creatures, weapons, boats, etc. The list can go on, and these are things which we plan to address and more in the coming months ahead. This patch, however, will primarily be focused on the points mentioned above, and we'll hit our PTR/test live environment a week before it makes its way onto the main game. So you'll be able to make an early look at the experience and experience it on that network. Let us know your thoughts about the upcoming update. We value your feedback and insight. We don't claim to be omniscient, and you may raise attention to something we hadn't considered, which will either result in us adjusting and design further, or we consider how to tackle those concerns in a future date. So claim, revamp, and war system. Players can now build anywhere without owning a settlement, an island which has been claimed. An island, so basically, if someone claims islands are one claim flag, and if someone claims them, other people can still build on that settlement or claimed island. Even if they're not in the company, they can still build there. An island which has been claimed is now known as a settlement. Only one claim flag can be placed per island, and the owner, player/company, is the owner of that settlement. There will be a hard limit on the total number of claim flags a company can own. Islands are given a rank based on their location, size, and how valuable they are. These rankings will be used to determine upkeep, as well as identify the top 10 companies, which will be a sum of all the islands that the company has claimed. Structures that are built on islands that are not settlements can be rated at any point. Okay, so that is definitely something I don't think they talked about. So basically, structures built on islands that aren't settlements. So if an island is not claimed, it's basically a lawless island until it's claimed. Fog of War and Shroud of War have been eliminated, so the entire Atlas will be shown to everyone. That's pretty nice, I guess. I don't think it's probably going to have names and stuff, I would assume, because those are discoveries. I assume it's just going to show you the overall landmass, so that's going to be much easier to be able to find islands you actually want to build on, since you can build on every island now. World map will now show the name of the island, which can be changed by settlement owners. Oh, okay. Who a settlement is owned by, the current tax rate, and the current war status of the island. So you'll be able to change the names of the island, and the world map will show the name of the island. I'm wondering if you're able to change the base name of the island that is the discovery point, or how that's actually going to work. Islands will have covered overlay for ownership owned by you, an ally, or a non-ally. So I assume blue for you, teal for ally, red for non-ally. Kind of makes sense. Company updates, NPC crew. So basically, also, when I'm talking about anyone can build on a settlement, basically how they explained it was, the settlement is someone's own island. And if someone else builds on there, you're able to demolish those buildings if you want. But the more people that aren't in the company that own that settlement reduce the overall cost of upkeep, and they will get taxed, which will also help with the upkeep. So for company updates, NPC crew on offensive/defensive seated structures will no longer count towards the tame limit while seated. So this makes it so you can have a ridiculous amount of defenders if you can afford to have them all, and not have them count towards the tame limit, which is for basically any NPCs that aren't set on structures and that are tamed animals. So if you were a massive company that actually had that much stuff, this will help be able to have more defenses and not have to worry about that, with having NPC crew seated on defenses or cannons or whatever. Company limit has been reduced to 250 members. So that is half of what it was before, which is pretty big. And I think the reason they're doing this is because there is a lot going into this big update in March that is trying to kind of go away from big mega tribes, which are still going to be big ones since 250 people, but reducing that is definitely needed, because having tribes of 500 people, if you have any percentage of that, any decent percentage of that as active players, it's just ridiculous, and nobody else can fight against that. Because even if every single one of those players is worse than another company's, they still have just so many members. And the system right now definitely is much more tuned for higher player counts, because you can just do everything with nakeds. Just try to take flags everywhere with nakeds, stop flags from being taken. With a new system, it's definitely going to be much more built towards actually having coordinated good players that know what they're doing and, can actually set up attacks or defenses. Group ranks now have been increased to 10. Alliance changes will now be logged in the company log. You can now store the company log to display entries from top to bottom. A new group setting, which can grant owner permission for company members, which can only be set by the owner and unset by the owner. Members with the owner permission will not be able to remove the actual company owner from the company. So basically, this is just if someone makes a company and they want, someone they're close with or that also made the company to be owners, just the person that made the company can never be removed as the actual owner unless they demote themselves. An alliance can now only contain a maximum of 4 companies, and a company can only be in 2 different alliances at a time. So this pretty much means that you can only be in alliances with 8 other companies total. So this is also massive. Now, if you guys haven't seen, you can even look up, like, say on NA PvP, because that's what I used to play on. There used to be maps on Reddit that people would constantly update that showed the sections of the map. They were basically owned by different company alliances. Like, the whole left side was like Atlas of Power. There were just like dozens and dozens of different companies in these massive alliances, and it basically made it on, if you attacked anyone in that alliance, half the alliance would then attack you. They would put you on a kill on sight list. They would do just tons of stuff, basically making it so it was much harder to do any like open world actual PvP, not raiding, without having like dozens of companies then want to raid your base. So this also reduces the amount. Basically, this and the player limit for companies massively reduces the amount of people that are going to be able to come together. So say even like something like CTSG that had, I think it was a dozen different companies that were some variation of CTSG, or something that was still ran by CTSG companies. There was, I think, over a dozen was in the list, and some of them even had max players, so 500 members. So say some companies that big or coalitions that big, now you're halved for how many people can be in a company, and you can only have 8 maximum companies you're alliance with. So even something like that is going to get reduced, and then you know, these massive just alliances with a bunch of different companies that just kind of alliance to not fight each other and help each other are going to be reduced, making it so it's much more about tight-knit groups that actually, you know, kind of know each other better and are not just alliance because you're on that side of the map. So I think this change, the company limit and the alliance limits, are probably some of the biggest changes coming in the Big March update.